Remember the glitch where you could drop down multiple ranks? I think it would end up fixing itself, but it was still funny to see. But here are even more things you might not remember about old Siege. When all the recoil got changed for the secondaries, the revolver actually became a viable secondary. It only took like 2 to 3 shots to put someone down, and you could actually see since it no longer kicked to the ceiling. When you were trying to lay low like a buffalo as Echo in this corner on Old Consulate in the kitchen, if you threw your yokai drone, sometimes it would bounce and get stuck like Chuck in the wall. And this was back when Echo only had 1 drone, so once you lost it, you were kinda useless. Especially if it fell out of the map like in this clip. Everyone always talks about how they miss the old lighting of Siege because it looked better, and believe me, I do too. But let me know in this clip when you spot the Thatcher. I'll slow it down too. I can definitely see why they decided to brighten things up. Big shout out to Mom's cooking from my Discord for the revolver, yokai, and lighting clip, Operation Health. Even though this season was pretty bad since we got absolutely no content, hearing the theme is still very nostalgic. Stadium Alpha got reworked twice, and they made a handful of changes, and a massive shout out to Kazonix from my Discord for all the screenshots. The second floor office hallway was changed a few times, especially with the lighting. It used to be a lot more red. The second floor armory actually got a major lighting change. Surprisingly, it got a lot darker with the new one. Same thing with the second floor kids' dormitory. It got a lot darker as the changes happened, which is kinda weird since you'd think they'd go the opposite way. Same thing with the second floor master bedroom with a few light designs changed too. Yellow stairs got a bit brighter though. Just want to point out it's day in the old and night in the new. The lighting in the second floor office stayed relatively the same, but the layout of stuff was changed up a bit, like the doorway in the corner. Same thing with the target room. It had a bunch of changes from the first to second version, as well as the lighting getting a bit darker. This is what the work in progress of Chalet looked like. It's pretty cool, but also strange seeing another chalet just floating in the sky. And it's interesting that it had collision, so Zero's cam could get in there. This is what it looked like to start up the work in progress build of Chalet, along with the work in progress build of Zero. Zero was pretty much completed at this point, but they still had placeholder images for a lot of the stuff, like Zero's new primary and his model. Most of the map wasn't fully rendered in, and it was a lot brighter. I'm guessing it's just easier to manage that way for the devs. Also, the hatches say something. It's too blurry to make all of it out, but I can see trapdoor and wood only. Some of these not fully rendered rooms also just reminds me of the back rooms, especially bar. That little hallway behind bar I can never remember the name of in games. Here's a little bit more of Stadium Alpha and the changes. The dining room stayed the same except for the lighting change. The back hallway changed a lot. Doorways got moved around, walls got shifted over, corners changed, and of course the lighting was changed. Shout out to Kazonix for the chalet and stadium stuff. This was the work in progress build of Reworked House. Just like Chalet, there's a second version floating in the sky. If someone knows why they do this, be sure to let me know in the comments. The work in progress logo was everywhere in the selection screen, and this was when Oryx, Iana, Ace, and Malusi were all still works in progress as well. Although Oryx was basically done at this point, but his icon and dash logo weren't there yet. As you can see, similar to Chalet, most of the walls aren't fully textured yet. But it is interesting to see that some of the walls are covered in grids, and the destructible walls are covered in the word breakable, with a picture on them as well. Some of the rooms look more finished than others too, and unlike Chalet, the hatches are normal looking with no text on them. Not sure what that is on the left, but it says, "Override me, wood only." These windows weren't fully finished either since you can see through the cracks of time. And it's interesting to see how it just says girls' room above the door. Outside of house looked mostly finished, except for the floating house in the sky. I'm also curious what the height limit of Oryx's jump is, if he'd be able to jump up to the second house in the sky if there was a broken hatch since there's no bottom floor. I'd imagine if you could jump up there, you'd end up stuck like Chuck. I'm pretty sure I've covered something similar to this a while back, but you used to be able to get out of pretty much any building during the prep phase. The first method was with Tachanka's turret. All you needed to do was place down the turret in the doorway, hop on it, and then hop off. This would then teleport you in front of the turret, putting you outside during the prep phase. The other method was with the most broken item in Siege history, the deployable shield. For this one, all you needed to do was put this right up against a doorway, You would then pick up the shield from the other side, and this would teleport you outside. Pretty easy to do and extremely broken and overpowered. And shout out to Reginald Cranberry for sending me the video. In the very early build of Siege, they actually tested out the concept of respawning mid-round. This obviously didn't make it to the full game, but it would have been interesting if it was added in. Siege would have been an entirely different game, and possibly not as popular either. There used to be a really rare glitch where you could pick up an impact grenade that was thrown at you. I honestly have no clue what could have caused this, but it was really cool. This is in the very early development of Siege, where they are doing the motion capture for rappelling. It looks like pretty much all of this did actually make it into the game, and it's really cool to see something that stayed relatively the same throughout the 9 years of Siege. Looks like they got every position possible, even a position to give your friend nefarious backshots while he's downtown Jimmy Brown. The only change is that it's a bit faster now, so it would be cool to see that updated motion capture. It's funny to see the guy getting flipped upside down too. Wouldn't want to get stuck like Chuck upside down though. But recording this just looks like a lot of fun. Here's more pictures of Stadium Alpha changes. This one was the classroom. Not too many changes for this one, mostly just lighting. The back hallway had a lot of changes. A whole wall got removed, and the entire hallway got extended out. The lobby had a wall added but a doorway removed on opposite sides. And of course, some lighting changes. I've talked about this a bit previously, but during Operation Chimera, you could get 2 Ash Elite skins for free, Sidewinder and Black Viper. To elaborate on how you could get 2 free skins, the first method was what you just saw, getting it out of a Chimera pack. This was the only way to get the Black Viper variant of the skin. The Sidewinder skin was given out to everyone who played during a certain time during Operation Chimera, because Ubisoft was going to raise the price of either the game or in-game items. Either way, there was immense backlash, so Ubisoft gave everyone who played at the time the Sidewinder Ash Elite. All the different poses for the winner's screen for Recruit. Since there were so many combos you could use with all the different CTUs, there were all types of unique outros you could get. My favorite has to be Shield Team 6. And of course the very old operator selection screen with all of the recruits saluting. The vibes of Nighttime Tower. This map might be horrendous, but it was still a lot of fun. And the night version just reminds me of Christmas of 2017. Especially hearing that classic white noise theme. Anthony Pitt's meme videos. Some of the best meme videos and an absolute pioneer for Siege memes.
5 seconds.
He actually did post something on his YouTube about making a return to these videos about 2 weeks ago, so hopefully he goes through with it. The old Alibi Prisma glitch. Sometimes you'd throw down your Prisma and it would get stuck like Chuck and just roll around instead of opening up, sometimes resulting in a tragedy if you were setting up after the round started. The old Warden hand glitch. This one was pretty funny and didn't affect anything, but Warden's hand could be backwards sometimes. Warden's run is already goofy looking, and this was just the cherry on top. Let's see what else Paul Allen remembers about old Siege. Back when Plane was in ranked, a good way to counter Glaz was to actually use his own bullet holes he put in the window against him. I'm not too sure if this still works since Plane is only in casual, which I never play. This is the work in progress build of Reworked Oregon. It says V2 all over the selection screen. And this was also when Oryx and Malusi were still works in progress. Oryx was pretty much done, but Malusi didn't have anything yet. And it's funny to see her placeholder name is Slowpoke. For the most part, the map looks pretty finished, but the textures look very different all over the place. The freezer wall says breakable on it, but only on the side actually in the freezer. And some of the stuff in the freezer has grids all over it. Pillar looks different, as well as the blue bunker having some additional items lying around. The outside bunker isn't finished at all with the grid textures everywhere. This is interesting because the supply room has a wall in it. It would have been interesting to see this make the final cut in the map, since this would make default plant much safer for attackers. The carpet textures weren't finished in meeting either, and they say, "Override me carpet" on them. And of course, the outside has another version of the map floating above it. In the very early build of Siege, they actually had a mini-map. While this probably would be way too overpowered for everyone to have since it would give away too much information, it wouldn't be a bad idea to be able to pull up a map and see an entire layout of the floor you're on. It would look something like this, and they could even put in an arrow to show where you're at and which direction you're facing. I think this could help newer players learn maps, but also for players to learn maps that are always banned, like Lair. Another thing in early development were the different ways of gathering visual intel. A camera network with fixed and controllable cameras, which is what we have now on defense. A flying drone that would circle the building and provide surveillance of the outside building, and ground-based drones, which we got for attackers. The surveillance drone sort of got added, because if any defender goes outside, they automatically get detected. Would have been cool to see an actual drone flying around, though. Now, I'm not sure if this is still a thing, but if it isn't, when you were staring down the barrel of an enemy, and their laser was right in your eyes. People don't really use lasers anymore, so I honestly don't know if it's still around. The old fuse cluster charge animation. It's not too different, but it looks a bit more clunky and it feels a bit faster now too. Operation Dustline's theme, just an iconic season. Here's another work-in-progress build of a reworked map. This one is Skyscraper. This was also when Aruni was still a work-in-progress too. Similar to the other maps, the layout was pretty much finished, but a lot of the stuff isn't fully textured yet. And also Aruni's punch didn't make any noise yet. The entire ceiling on the bedroom and bathroom side of the map says breakable on it, and this is what the Aruni gate originally looked like in development. The walls are missing upstairs on the little hop-ups next to Drum and Dragon, which is interesting. I'm guessing to make it a little bit easier to hold Drum and so you can hide on those hop-ups. Another big change is the window between Dragon and Terrace. Not sure what I'd like better, but again, I'd imagine it was changed to make things easier to hold. There's also no minibar to sit behind. An exhibition looks a lot more open. Shout out to Kazonix from my Discord for sending me the work-in-progress map. A while back, Priest modded an ACOG onto Ella's SMG. The recoil was outrageous, but this would probably be so fun to use if it made its way into the game. Kazonix sent me another work-in-progress version of a reworked map. This time it's Herford Base. However, this one is crazy because it's not even close to being finished, and there's still a lot of parts of the old map still there. The basement's ceiling is lowered, and almost nothing is textured yet. Just grids and the breakable walls everywhere. The ladder to go upstairs is gone, and instead replaced with a doorway that leads to a whole new area for the reworked version. This area hasn't been properly lit yet either, and the stairs actually are clipping through the ground outside of the building. The first floor is pretty much the same as old Hereford, but obviously once again lacking textures. But there is an additional room behind the dining room. Part of the front door is blocked off with a wall, and then there's a new staircase in the garage. This was one of the original designs of the hostage. I'm not really sure why they decided to change this one up. It wasn't a bad design, but this guy has nothing on the E3 hostage. The original recruit design. I think I like this better than what we ended up getting and what we have now. He definitely looks more like a special agent, but it would be cool if Ubisoft added in uniforms from the pre-alpha. The original logos for operators. These were interesting because they aren't the same as the beta. This is one where I do like the current designs a bit better, although Pulses on the far right is pretty cool. And these are what the beta logos look like, just to compare them as well. Some of these are really cool, my favorite probably being Glaz. Another thing about the pre-alpha was how bright the white outline around the operators were. While it is nice to see where your teammates are at, I can see why they dialed it back a bit since it's kind of distracting. It used to take multiple hits from Sledge's big hammer to break open a hatch entirely. Thankfully, this was changed to one swing, and his overall destruction was increased. Shout out to Ice from my Discord for that first clip, but in this clip, you can see super early development of nitro cells. They originally looked like landmines and had a radius type thing when they were thrown out. This is more of the work in progress of Hereford Base's rework. The second floor looks very squished together, and a lot of the stuff isn't textured yet. This chair was really close to the wall, and Kazonix got stuck like Chuck behind it. There are some random items that are just floating, and there's a new area for the rework outside of the kid's bedroom. Going up to the third floor, you can see that where one of the old doorways was, and the third floor itself looks the least finished, with none of the walls being textured. Not too much going on Uptown Funk on the rooftop, just a lack of textures. Operation Skull Rain just reminds me of summertime. This iconic old Bolo clip where he gets a crazy two-piece through the wall. This spawn peek on old Hereford Base where you'd peek out on the second floor balcony and you'd be able to see right into one of the attackers' spawns. Of course, having a Jaeger ACOG made things a lot easier, and another old spawn peak on Hereford on the 3rd floor looking through the cracks of time into the attacker's spawn. I definitely miss old Hereford Base in Ranked. Even though it didn't play that well, it was still fun. Old Model on Canal used to look a lot different, and the lower bridge was the only bridge. The Madhouse event. Since it's spooky season, it's only fitting that we cover the Madhouse event a bit, courtesy of Varsity Reviews. One of the first events we got, and it had some of the coolest skins. I really like the Valkyrie skin, and I'm pretty sure most of these skins are on the marketplace now. The lighting in this map was very attacker favored, because it was so dark out. Let me know when you spot the thermite outside. Yeah, I couldn't see him either, but he was out there sitting in the treehouse. This was some of the madhouse outside. Pretty cool atmosphere with jack-o'-lanterns and gargoyles everywhere, as well as a bunch of various spooky sounds. Do you think Madhouse should return in the future? There used to be a glitch where you could have multiple lion drones spawned in, and it was pretty loud. In the 2nd year of Doktor's Curse, they added in a Rooney, and the game became less hide-and-seek, and more of just a camp in a certain spot, which was pretty lame. The 1st year was definitely the best year. In the 1st and 2nd year of Doktor's Curse, Oryx wasn't in the game mode, so you had to sacrifice a teammate just to get to people hiding in weird spots, which made this game mode super defender-sided. Aruni Gates also did 70 damage instead of 30, so this just made things even more difficult. And of course this meant you couldn't get yourself out of a frost mat. Do you think the frost mat change should be reverted, or should it stay how it is now where you can pick yourself up? There were only 3 attackers in the 1st and 2nd year, the Stalker, the Lurcher, and the Prowler. So like I said before, it was definitely more defender-sided. The 1st year was a lot of fun on both sides though. The Sugar Fright event.
Is this real life? Or is this a sugar fantasy? Only one way to find out.
Sugar Fright was just like Kill Confirmed from Call of Duty, and the map was based off of an old Rainbow Six map called Street. Sugar Fright had some really interesting skins that turned a bunch of operators into Muppets. All these skins can be bought on the marketplace now, but they were a bit rare for a while since the game mode was only 2 weeks. There are skins for Frost, Thermite, IQ, Ella, Capitao, Zofia, Nomad, Castle, Pulse, and Goyo. I'm surprised we haven't seen a version of this game mode return in the arcade playlist. Along with this map, I feel like it would be a great fit for that playlist. This was the replacement for Doktor's Curse for Halloween of 2020 and hasn't been back since. My guess is that this was an early test for a warm-up game mode. It's also only the 3rd Halloween event they've done, the other 2 being Doktor's Curse and Madhouse. What do you like better? Sugar Fright, Doktor's Curse, or Madhouse? The Showdown event. One of my personal favorite events, and I'd love to see it make a return, maybe as a permanent mode in the arcade playlist. The Showdown event came out for the first time in 2019 and made its return in 2021 and has not been back since. It was a 3 versus 3 secure area on a map called Fort Truth, uniquely designed for this mode. Everyone had the Boss G and the revolver, with attackers having nades and smokes, and defenders having deployable shields and barbed wire. The cosmetics were pretty cool. They had skins for Twitch, Ash, Capitao, Rook, Maverick, Maestro, Alibi, Glaz, Cade, and Caveira. I'm guessing these are all on the R6 marketplace at this point. There were also 2 cool Easter eggs, one being the Smasher Skull from the Outbreak event, and the other being the DeLorean from Back to the Future Part 3. What do you think? Should Showdown return? Or should Ubisoft make new limited time modes? And do you think Fort Truth would be a good addition to the arcade playlist? Since it's the Christmas season, this was one of the packs Ubisoft gave away a few years ago. If you didn't have all the ops, you would get a free one, but if you had everyone, they would give you a free Ash Elf skin, which is pretty cool and always great to bring out during this time of year. This was one of the original Christmas skins called Ralphie that came out all the way back in 2015. I couldn't find it on the marketplace either, so if that's the case, this is probably one of the rarest skins in the game. Since it's been 9 years since Siege launched, this is what it looked like to launch the game for the first time all the way back on December 1st of 2015.
Hey everyone, it's actually me, just to pop in at the end and say thank you for watching and thank you for all the subscribers. We just hit 25,000, which is absolutely crazy. I'm planning on putting all of my old Siege videos together in one big video and just fixing up some stuff from each one, but especially the first part. After that, I'll be doing more old Siege stuff, but most likely narrated by me and probably going more in depth on certain topics. This is probably the last video I'll do in this style since I've pretty much covered everything. So thank you again for the crazy support on all these old Siege videos, and hopefully you'll stick around for more old Siege stuff.
Let's see what else Paul Allen remembers about old Siege.